Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Pain Talk. I apologize for any problems we might have. We had some technical difficulties that we had to sort through. I'm actually trying to do my normal share to the broadcast list of the link. Like we're having some difficulties. What it's looking like.
Pradesh.
Yeah.
Good day, Trinidad and Tobago. I am Philip Edward Alexander, and I thought that we should have an actual, factual conversation about our situation and circumstances as a nation. In our brief 57-year history, we've moved from the third wealthiest nation in the Western world to broke. How broke? The Minister of Finance says he has difficulty paying public servants. How rich were we? After the United States and Canada, we were richer than Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Argentina, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Bermuda, Bolivia, Brazil. We've been richer than the British Virgin Islands, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba. This Trinidad and Tobago was the third wealthiest. All right, so apologies for that. And we are here, we joined with Devant Maharaj, former government minister, Minister of Food Production. Devant, you hearing me?
I'm hearing you
not
fine.
hearing.
I'm hearing you fine.
Devant, you were also the chairman of NLCB?
No. I worked there for 14 years. I was the chairman of PTSC and Minister of Transport, and then finally Minister of Food Production.
Well, if you want to say any opening remarks or anything like that before we get down into the crux of the matter, that would be okay with me. I have to fix my screen.
All right.
So much drama going on with this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the rest of the country, tuned into Parliament on Monday. We expected, I think, to hear some accounting by the state for what has been their expenditure, their actions on behalf of the taxpayers for the last month or so, when they really just were silent on those critical issues, only to have this debate about the electronic monitoring devices, these ankle bracelets. And Dr. Rudal Munilal raised a matter of urgent public importance regarding the Venezuelan oil. And that was deemed by the Speaker of the House as not urgent enough. And those are the things I think the government are being given a pass in the national media. You with me, Philip?
Devon, we're having real problems tonight.
You
I'm
want
going to ask.
to reschedule?
No, we hearing you clear now, so I don't know if you want to try it again. I have Satish on the phone. Satish, we just continue, or you want to reboot? What you want to do? Continue. Devon, give us that again as an intro, and I apologize for this. I don't know what's going on with you. With the internet tonight, I don't know if we're getting assistance from others who would rather this show not happen, but start over now and let's go from there.
Yeah, well, just, start over. We all tuned in yesterday to the Parliament, hoping that the government would use that platform to give us some real accountability and a sense of what they have been doing with taxpayers' money for the last month, and how have they been, what measures they're taking to control the COVID-19. Dr. Munilal also raised from the opposition side an issue regarding uh, false bunkering by a Venezuelan company off the coast of Trinidad, and that matter was raised as a matter of urgent public importance. And instead, the Speaker of the House deemed it as not appropriate, not urgent enough, and it was shut down. Today, we have heard and read in many international media, as far back as far away as India, reporting on the Venezuelan strategy of circumventing their embargo by the United States by using Trinidad. And it's just a little too convenient that only a couple of weeks ago we had the vice president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela here in our capital, despite our lockdown, to meet with the prime minister. And when asked about it, the prime minister responded that they come to talk about COVID business and anything else is hasikara. I don't know if you remember that, Philip. So
I was shocked that he was allowed to say that.
no, but what was even I think more of an indictment on our society is that there was no media house that are allowed by the gatekeepers there that was allowed to prosecute this matter to any detail, because I am
Not
told that
There were
they cut off.
not even astronaut news.
Yeah, astronaut news wasn't allowed. They cut off the mic. They cut off the people mic. Now compare that to what is going on. We see it every day, both in Washington and in Ottawa, that the prime minister and president, respectively, they go and subject themselves to the most brutal interrogation by these journalists of CNN and New York Times and Globe and Mail and so on, and they account to the people. Here, the media is buff up, the mic cut off, and if you don't play nice, you'll be barred from joining astronaut news from the press conference. So we have no
That's
real accountability. And I mean, when you look at the news headline news tonight, I mean, the news needs Viagra. It's like they're giving a pass to the government and their competence. Yesterday morning, while parliamentarians were going to the parliament, I had a video circulating with people in Tunapuna stretching for over 200-300 feet to social welfare office at 7:30 in the morning. This is the kind of humiliation and embarrassment that citizens have to go through still to apply to get a some sort of relief that was announced close to a month ago by the Minister of Finance. And we are told by some that, you know, if you were in some other country, you'd be listening to the government. Yeah, if you was in some other country, be listening to the government because the government would have been delivering. In Miami, I'm sure you are aware people who collect checks for $1,500 already. In
absolutely.
Canada, within 4 days, you get a check in the mail for your money, right? And Boris Johnson in the UK, you're getting £800. Some sort of support that I was talking to a friend of mine in Ottawa, and they went to the bank, and like here, there's the social distancing, so there's a line outside. The bank security guard goes outside in the freezing cold and tell people, "Give me your number. You go in your car and sit, and we will call you from the bank to tell you when to come inside." So you don't need to have to line up outside and take away from your dignity and humanity in the cold. So, and that doesn't cost them anything. But here we have, as my Jersey say here, Philip, jungle action. Jungle action happening here.
Devant, I want to say to you, to a lot of people, Trinidad is not something that you could compare to any other first world, real world developed nation. It's not. We we are not a real country by any stretch of the imagination. Would you agree with that statement?
No, I think we are a real country. Depends on how philosophical you want to get, but I do think we should fool ourselves to think that we are first world country. That may
Yeah,
be
but it's
our
a
ambition.
thousand people 6 weeks after we've shut the entire economy down and put 300,000 hand to mouth people and their families on the breadline. People who work today for money today to eat today. And 6 weeks has passed, and the media is allowed to run a headline that say cash flowing, and that column say the first 1,000 checks going out. I don't understand what is broken in this country that would allow us to tolerate all of that as our reality. I don't want to start off dwelling
No,
on COVID 19 coronavirus because I
well,
want to tell you something. Yeah, go
let me
ahead.
take off from what you're saying there. The media in Trinidad and Tobago, by and large, is compromised, right? You have a media house conglomerate that have business interests in other areas where they depend on the government approval, government for advertising, government for contract approval. So obviously, and I've had personal experience with this, where government operatives call people in the media house and say, suppress Devant's story here, call Minister X and get his point of view instead. And it happens like that. So when
A
you
financier was allowed to call Iowa George and tell Iowa George if Philip Alexander is ever on the street 91.9 again, street 91.9 will never get advertising from the government again. Now that is a criminal act. I can't put Iowa George in a box and get him to swear on a Bible and say that that happened. But that is a criminal act as it flies in the face of the Constitution. And I'm asking you as somebody who has sued the state on umpteen times. Isn't that something that should have been taken before the courts a long time ago to create some sort of arm's length between the boardroom and the newsroom?
Well, I mean, that is clearly something that our laws have been silent on. And I think one of the difficulties is how you provide the evidence in the present construct right now. Because that same financier, as you call it, is the same person responsible for making calls regarding myself. I remember appearing on a program with Aisha Wells, I think on
That's it.
Power 102. And immediately
But it was like
afterwards,
1.9 with Aisha.
yeah. Well, I went, yeah, I think I went on 91. Immediately after I left the studio, a call was made to find out if I am a regular feature now, me and Aisha, because that wasn't something that they wanted at all. Yeah, because somehow the nexus between Aisha Wells and me would have spelled trouble for them. That's the same financier would have called one of the print media houses and threatened them on myself, you know. So when you have the media compromised like that, the Venezuelan story doesn't come on the front page or the second page. Instead, you have Minister Imbut saying cash flowing. But really, what you have people is doing is lining up. I had a call today from a part of Arima where over 400 children in a school who have been deprived of the school feeding program don't know what to do. And they don't know. They go into the MP office. Well, Maxi Coffee is missing in action and they don't know what to do. Now, when you listen to the parliamentary contributions yesterday, we are told that all MPs have been given 500 food cards or school feeding program facilities. Now, some of the electorate per constituency is on average about 25,000 people. So when you have 500 children alone as a member of parliament, and I mean, this government, we don't know what they're doing with their own MPs, but one could assume that they would get other avenues of financial support. Because I saw the member of parliament for Sandy Grande with hampers by somebody who the recipient of many government contracts, donating those hampers there. You know, but in the opposition areas with 500 food cards, you would invariably have to turn away at least the next 2,000, 2,500 people. And everybody feels that they're deserving, and everybody feels they have a right. They think their situation is the most dire, and you can't argue about whose um, pain and suffering and hunger is more than the other. It's equally traumatic for each particular case. But this is their solution, This is their solution that uh, we the PNM strategy is to always punish the citizenry up to the time of the election, where they throw out a set of URP and CPEP work and fly-by-night contracts and chain up people head with these things and get them to come out in their numbers to
All right.
vote for them.
All of those things you're saying, those are facts and those have been our experience. But my question has to be, why would that be so? And why has nothing been done under any administration to change that culture of handout as a way of interacting with the people?
I would think when you say the culture of handouts, you're looking at the culture of the CPEP and URP in particular, I take it.
In
Yeah,
particular.
right.
In
I
particular.
think from my vantage point, there is a mortal fear. There is a mortal fear by any
But
administration.
Kid Rowley told me that they shut down Carney Limited because it was losing $500 million a year. But CPEP and URP cost the country in excess of $1 billion a year, and that don't make sugar. How could you close down Carney for losing $500 million a year and still justify upholding CPEP and URP?
Because they interpret that the employment force of Caroni are so disposed that they wouldn't riot and they wouldn't take any kind of illegal or violent action. That is the racial underpinning of the PNM thinking. Whereas the CPEP and URP, remember before URP came into being, it was Jude, it was Lid,
Dude,
it was all um, these
hold on for
various
that.
incarnations, which really was geared to get people from the jail when they come out. So you start up with a
Well, no,
workforce.
I told that Jude was created, or the precursor to Jude was created to take labor off the farm.
No. That was as a part of rehabilitation and to reduce recidivism and so on. So you
That
bring
may have
in
been
these
the
people, and they are predominantly employed on the east-west corridor. I mean, there are smaller gangs in other areas, and it is a way in which the PNM feeds the lower ends of their political army.
But Devon, there's also talk that ministers and MPs have CPEP contracts in
I have
both
heard
parties. In both parties, I'm going to tell you, I have heard that in UNC and I've heard that in PNM, that there are ministers and MPs who fight over plum CPEP contracts.
I've heard that, but let me tell you something. The easiest thing to do is wash your mouth on anybody holding office. And somebody may not know you, but they will come away saying, boy, that one thief, this one. I am hesitant to make that judgment unless you see documentation. Because
Okay,
Movelang,
all right.
Movelang is a
Movelang-
pastime in Trinidad, yeah,
Yeah, but
right?
why? Don't
How
you
much time,
realize that it's
how much
powerless?
time you hear about people bad talking you
That's the
or bad
point.
talking you?
That's the point. That's the point. And I always say that this show is the most difficult show for anybody to come on. Because this show, they bad talk my guests to me and they bad talk me to my guests. So by the time we get the show together, because that's the first thing, and you're not wrong. And that culture has been set from on high, defame and discredit to take people's power away so that you could kill the message if you silence the messenger. But at the bottom rung of society, there is a powerlessness there where people could know that criminal action is taking place and there is nowhere for you to go and request, who do I go to about the $500 million Red House reconstruction? Now, I accidentally found a file of pictures from 2012 when I went into the Red House to present a proposal to the then Prime Minister about homeless people in town. And I was taking I took so many pictures of inside the Red House because it's the Red House. And what they put out as the finished product of the Red House and what they said was necessary to do to the Red House, I could almost prove now that that was lies. But who do I go to? Do I go to Gary Griffith and ask Gary Griffith to investigate $500 million in the Red House? Who does the average person, and if I don't know who to go to, what does the average person do but not sit down there and just say, a next contract for Abood? Why only Abood getting these contracts? Why amalgamated and had justice on time that nobody could have explained? Why that contract morphed into a force security contract for COVID-19? And it's only when the people raise a fuss you cancel that, and now you're going to give them the ankle bracelet contracts too? Where's the transparency? Where's the tendering process? Where's the accountability? Who does
Not
the
only that,
average person?
stick up in that clip. Let me go to that ankle bracelet thing before it escapes my mind. We have been told on a daily basis in Trinidad, thanks to the daily circus at 10 o'clock with Terrence delacing, the druggist, that we have 8 COVID deaths in Trinidad since we started the lockdown and so on, right? We accept that. We also have been told on a daily basis by Mr. Delacing that the majority, if not all, of the cases that have tested positive have as a result of those who come in the country from foreign and or directly contact with them. We accept that, right? So far, we accept that there's no community spread. It's sporadic, as even the Prime Minister has repeated at his last statement. So we accept that. So if there's 8 deaths, 117 tested cases positive, and they boasting that Cora now is empty because we don't have anybody there, and so on. And we are doing testing when people cough and thing only. We're not doing general testing, only infect. Why it is we have to spend $80 million for ankle bracelets to Lego people from the jail, when we just say it's only 8, the curve flattened, nobody in the jail tested positive, nobody have a cold that is aligned to any of the symptoms with COVID-19. The hospitals that are used as step-down facilities and COVID facilities are now slowly seeing a reduction in numbers. So we're spending $80 million for what? For ankle bracelets? I don't know about you, but tonight alone is self-evident that there's a problem with some of the technology for internet and so on. Now, it's understandable that given the fact that most persons have a social sense of responsibility and staying home, that they're online, be it either to watch Netflix or surf the web or whatever. So the amount of traffic,
Watching extraction.
right? Extraction was it? I watched that one.
Watch that story.
The
Watch that show.
yeah, I watched that already, man. I watching something else. But the bandwidth now has more traffic. So you could
Yes.
imagine a man with an ankle bracelet that relying on similar, if not identical, technology. His signal dropped the way it's being monitored. What damage he could do by the time it come back on.
Yeah, but
But we spending
Devant, I want to tell you,
$80
the
million dollars.
size, the size of the geofence that is this ankle monitor system is the size of a turf in Beetham and Lavendale. It's the size of the turf. It's the size of the
Mhm.
community that is defended and fought. 5 murders take place tonight. You can't tell Mr. Ankle Monitor we're nearly the area yet, you know. It is not
No,
it's not properly thought through to the point where we as a nation have identified what would be the purpose of these ankle bracelets to Trinidad and Tobago. A
the
country,
purpose is a $80 million contract. That is the purpose.
I want to
Election
believe that
coming
you
up.
can,
The
I
election
wanted to
coming
make,
up on it.
but okay, so it costs us $25,000 a month to house prisoners in the jail. That's what Faris Al-Rawi told us 5 years ago, 4 years ago. But Faris didn't do anything in the 4.5 years that he's been the Attorney General to change that cost. I had the Commissioner of Prisons as a guest on a Plain Talk show together with the Prisons Officers Association, and the two of them, and you could go and watch that video because it's available, and the two of them lamented that all of the money that is budgeted for the prisons, that is spent on the prisons, they don't see it. And they don't get it. All they get is the blame for what is spent on the prisons, but they don't have control of it and they don't have responsibility for it. I asked them, and this was almost a year ago, that we were proposing that the jails be equipped with a courtroom to end this wasteful justice on time contract. The prison officers never wanted. And they said, better than that, we could be doing video conferencing because we have the technology and we're ready to do that. Look, COVID-19 give us prison court conferencing in 2 months. Spend $80 million a year. We're having a problem. We're having a problem with Devon's audio. The entire system broken tonight. It's breaking down tonight.
You hear me? I'm hearing you.
I hear
You
you
hear me?
now. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, so what I was saying is Justice Mackay, as part of the Mackay Commission to Trinidad and Tobago in and around mid 2000, had made a recommendation for video conferencing way back when. When I did the FOIA in I think it was 1998 or something about the cost, not 1990, yeah, in 2002, the cost of amalgamated security carrying people up and down Trinidad and Tobago in 2009 or so was approximately $70 million. Then, 10 years later, a decade later, due to inflation and cost of living and so on, one would expect it to be over 100 million. Over 100 million but there was no interest to move it from this security company and have video conferencing. I think one of the big advantages or one of the big benefits coming out of COVID is persons are now seeing they could do so much more online. I mean, I was privy to having the judiciary allow me in as a member of the media to witness the case with Ian
Briefly,
Allen. Yeah, I was at the
briefly,
withdraw the case. Now imagine that the judiciary recognized me as media, but the cabinet didn't. But I mean, so there's that. You're seeing it happening now in the courts. They're doing the video conferencing. A lot of people doing work and so on. So I mean, it has now opened up a whole new practical application of these video conferencing.
Devon, I wanna shift gears. One of the members of the media that goes to those conferences is paid by the National Lotteries Control Board as a crisis manager.
Yep.
That is a real post.
Yeah. No, yeah, this. I have some experience with this particular. As you know, I was the one that busted my country, right? I got a series of emails from NLCB regarding, I forget what the issue was, but it was some degree of spending widely at NLCB. And when I looked at the email thread, who was copied and who wasn't copied, I realized that one Rhoda Barrett was listed in the email thread. So I said, but I know she's not on the board because I have an idea who on the board. I know she's not employed there because I have plenty of friends still working there and tell me what's going on, right? So where this person is included in it. So when I started to do some investigation, I realized she has been appointed on contract to be a crisis communications manager. Now I
What is that
asked for the
exactly?
board. Well, I'll come to that. I've asked the board for minutes. I've asked the Ministry of Finance for minutes and so on. And in the minutes, what is instructive? The Ministry of Finance Communications Officer wrote the chairman of the board telling him that he should hire her basically. Now you could imagine that a
How
state
outside?
official,
Yeah.
how they could write a board and tell them you need to hire this person because she has done something similar in other places. Now, because we do, I so far I don't know which other state company she's hired, if any at all. But I would assume that given the kind of weight I'm seeing here, that she is likely, it's probable that she could be hired otherwise. Now, you know, I have some history with the NLCB. They have about 4 advertising agencies, and the agencies provide full service, right? Which means they do everything from writing press
Agen-
release, putting.
agencies,
I didn't get the last word.
agencies, what type of agencies? Not fly by night agencies. We're talking
No, no,
agencies
no,
like Dale,
no.
McCann, Ross Advertising at that level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That level we talk. Advantage Advertising is one of them. They have. I mean, I don't know some of the new ones now, but they have the big, reputable
Well,
agencies that.
reputable agencies.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they
They
would
have.
include they would include in the services offered to any agency that they have the advertising contract from, public relations and crisis management.
They have all that because when I was there were issues that came up that the chairman felt he wanted the agency to treat with, and he would talk to the agency to execute it. And I worked with both PNM and UNC chairman during my tenure there, so it was something that transcends politics and political parties. Uh, in addition to that, NLCB has a marketing and public relations staff and a manager. So they have in-house people. Then they have um, related bodies. They have a company called IGT, better known as GTech, which provide all the technical support for the online games, lotto, playway, so on. And they have their own marketing department which support whatever NLCB has to do. And the rationale they use for hiring this woman is that due to the amount of negative publicity they were getting, they needed to hire her. Well, the negative publicity was because of what I was doing about the kind of bacchanal was going on in the NLCB. But the invoices I have of her is that she was being paid close to $15,000 to $20,000 per month for that service. Now we move from that situation to
Wait, have you seen an invoice with an attached example of work done? Have you seen an
no,
itemized? Is there
no,
an itemized? You
no,
would
it's not
never.
itemized. It's not
So,
itemized.
so she paid a retainer.
Well, I've seen 2 invoices, one for 15 and one for 20, and it's not itemized. Like when you get an advertising agency, and Philip, you might know about this, when they bill the client, they will say, well, production for X commercial, voiceover services, placements at this ad, production for this ad, and they itemize it, and then they give you a total, subtotal it, add the VAT, and so on.
That's
You
what.
don't have that.
That's what. So I'm looking to see an invoice that says issue with the president champagne bottles and that kind of thing because that's the only work that I know that she's do.
No,
She
she have a godfather because let me tell you something. She is on the parliament media listing too. When I confronted Jackie Sampson about it, which I did, asking to be included and how it is she land on it, Jackie Sampson tells me that, listen, she reports on the parliament. Reports where? I don't know. Because her Facebook page, if you go on it, Philip, has about 35 or 4,500 people in it. So, I mean, I don't know what reportage is being done. And
who when Satish Ramsaran of Pep Media heard what you were doing with Donna Cox and applying to get on there, he totaled up our 3 pages and there's 100,000 people following on average on a daily basis. And we get those kind of numbers. So he said, well, if somebody with 4,000 followers could be included, then Pep Media should. And he's applied. And we've never heard nothing. It brings me back to the question. What's the next step? Do we
no,
go
well,
outside the parliament and burn
now
tires?
let me tell you what's the next step. Today, I applied to the courts. I applied to the courts today. So the courts, hopefully, they will hear our matter before the COVID lockdown has finished. Because, and you see, this is the other problem, the problem that we talked about earlier. You have members of mainstream media, bona fide members of mainstream media, sitting down next to this person figuratively, and accepting the fact that she represents a media house to ask questions. And on one occasion, you would recall that she didn't even want to ask a question. The Fox called she, and she's say, "Well, I have a question about what, make a comment." And that is the kind of stupidness that passing for
Is
institutions
anything
here.
Paul Richard? He works for
Yeah,
Power 102.
yeah, general manager,
He
I think.
called, right, he called me to ask me to come for an interview on a morning show. So I asked him who was on the panel, and he called some names. So I showed up and I was there. And I got there just as the news was going on, and right after the news, we were going in. And I saw this individual heading into the studio too. So I asked, I said, this person is party panel? And they said, yes. I said, okay, I'll be back. And I left. And I left and I went. So Stanley Augustus was a friend of mine, Stanley, and I grew up together. Stanley asked me, what happened? I said, brother, I don't want fleas. I'm not going near this animal. I don't want to be part of what is construed political debate for this kind of thing. I'm not in the hog fight anymore. They have people
You
for
see,
that.
you just say that when
She
people come in
spent
on your and people come in on your show that is bad to fuck you, and you do the
no,
same
but
thing with
listen, listen, I had Rudal Munilal on the show. And for the hour Rudal was here, people blowing up my message, ask him this, ask him that. If I defend Gary Griffith for one thing, because the same people that will attack me for defending Gary for one thing, they forget that they owe me applause because Gary is my very good friend. But Gary Griffith will tell you, I will pull him over the coals publicly long before he was commissioner. You see, a lot of people, they're convenient with their accolades and their anguish. So there was a time I had to have Gary in an exchange on social media over Faris Al Rawi's children and the guns in Kamutoy. Remember that?
mm-hmm. Daniel Faris Sharon,
That
Faris never said that he's Sharon. Don't get the man Sharon
alleged.
that he it is
But
alleged.
what I'm trying to tell you, that argument with Gary went on for almost 5 days, on social media. And and the same people who will get vexed with me today because I didn't set out to defend Gary, but I set out to ask an ex-magistrate today, how would you demonize, scaring straight young people who are growing up in a community that wants to turn them into criminals, and a commissioner of police who took action, and you turn the whole thing inside out? That got me attacked. When I left that show, Rhoda Barrett and whoever else was in the studio with her spent the hour just attacking me as if I'm there for a handful of PNM cult followers to call in so that they could have their little kicks bought and paid for by whoever sponsored that hour in the morning.
And
And
what's the problem with all of that?
my problem is, no, because you just said when I talk about when people come on the show, I have to
No, but
explain after the Bonilal show exactly. I said, listen, this show is not to bring people on the show and kick them in the head. That is not any way to get information in the public space. What we're trying to do with this series of shows is bring people on the show who can explain how things work so that we could get to a better place and the people could be informed and make informed decisions at election time.
but
So the
Philip,
problem I have,
you gotta take for granted that because you have a position, an opinion which you make public, that not everybody go like you. You cannot study who ain't like you. You have to study how you react to their animosity towards you. If you want to internalize it and take it on, well, then you go only raise your pressure. Who ain't like me, ain't like me. I really not bothered with about that.
that's
Because
one of the questions I want to ask you. Because I find you put out your posts and you do business with who say what. And I wanted
my
to ask you,
I
because
want to provoke
I
people to
do
think.
take it on. I do.
No, don't take it on. Let me tell you, I've adopted a kind of stoic philosophy with life. You can't control what other people say, no matter how foolish or how uneducated and ill-informed it is. Your job is not to try and educate all of them. What you have control over is how you choose to react. And I don't choose to react to every Tom, Dick, and Harry Lal. I strive to provoke people to think. Like most recently, I mean, you and I were on different end of the argument on this, but I have a I don't see a dichotomy between or a binary situation between social responsibility and constitutional rights. I think you could have your constitutional rights preserved but still exercise social responsibility. This equation that if you come outside your house, it will result in people dying and thing, and the police turning it away. I hold to the view that the police have no constitutional right to turn you away.
You
You're
understand that argument?
huh?
You understand
Was
that
that?
argument? Because we disagree
No,
on that
no,
a 100%.
I am saying, listen, you have a social responsibility. You should stay home. But in the
Right.
event
But
you
hold
have
on.
to go out,
The chance
no,
of the
but in the
police service is a tool to enforce law, to keep
yes,
the
and let me
peace.
ask you, what law would they enforce when they turn you away?
Well, listen to that. That is why the commissioner himself, you see now, this
Yeah, answer me. What law would they enforcing when they tell you you're not supposed to get gas there, you're not supposed to buy grocery there, turn around and go home? What law would they enforcing? That's all I want to know.
they, there was no law.
Right. Well then, so you are saying then you have admitted there by that is that the police have taken a political statement of the current administration to enforce a political policy
Yeah,
as
but see, if
is
you go
as
down that road, if you
no
go
no let me
down that road, if you go,
let me
yeah,
carry
finish.
the argument. Today, tomorrow, Rowley gets up with his band of merry men and says climate change is killing people. We have proof of that, we have scientific proof of that, and therefore you have to stay home. We have evidence of that. Influenza, which kills more people than it has killed in COVID-19. You should
Devant,
stay home.
I said
And then
those
you
things.
have,
It is,
no, but then you have the police acting not on a law, but acting on what Rowley say on a platform to stay home. And
but
that precedent is what I consider
allow me,
dangerous.
allow me to answer you there, right? Because when the Minister of National Security announced a state of emergency that wasn't a state of emergency, remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember that
But
announcement,
Farid
right?
yesterday was
And
a state of emergency. Farid yesterday
the,
said that the behavior was a state of emergency.
the country was confused, and the entire narrative and the entire debate was where could we go and how could we go and when could we go, and I remember for some reason the most important thing is could we exercise, and could we exercise as 2 people or 5 people, and I remember that the Minister of National Security's answer was the army has been given the instructions, don't test them.
Yeah, yeah.
And the commissioner of police came out of his way to tell the nation that the Minister of National Security talking nonsense, that he doesn't have that authority, that the army doesn't have that authority, that the only person who could stop you and ask you where you're going, that kind of thing, is the police, and that there are terms and conditions under which, and there are laws that he can't lock you up just so, because if it reach in front of a magistrate or a judge, they have to be able to say what you arrested the person for. And Gary explained that to the nation, yes or no? That was a long
Yeah.
running feud. Stewart would answer back, Farris would answer back, even Rowley jumped himself in the fray. So all I am saying, and all I'm saying to the end, is that you're
No, but
absolutely correct. But this was a
you can't
weird situation.
you can't stop the Kahani right there. Right? That
But,
is the only
but
stop.
it starts since March
No,
2015. If you're going to
no,
make a fuss here,
no, you have
if
to
you're
look
going to
at
make a
last
fuss
weekend. You have to look at last weekend where you had officers being interviewed on TV, police officers, being interviewed on TV and telling the reporters that if you come Gasparillo and you're going to buy a grocery and carrying they're sending you back. I put out a post on my page. If you have been turned around, message me and tell me your story. And the kind of abuse of police authority that was exercised according to these persons should be
Yeah, but
wary.
you're phrasing that bad. March 2015 was an abuse of police authority. And it was lawful. And it was legal. So there are ways and means that this could be done. And and I know Gary just trying to avoid the conversation to push it to where it could go. But there are ways
No,
and
that
means that the police could lock
I
it down. The police could lock it
I
down. They could lock it down.
no, but they could do it within certain legal context. There's no
Okay.
law to stop
All
you
right,
from moving X, Y, Z.
but nobody expected that the argument would get to the point where we would have to justify certain actions under these circumstances. I get what you are saying too. But this has been an unfurling
No,
scenario
no,
that we learn.
you're muddying the waters there. First of all, there are businesses that are exempt, right? That are deemed essential. Pharmacies, supermarket, gas station, hardware. I mean, to me, it's more exempt. We have plenty essential and very little non-essential. All ministries and so on. So what these businesses really opening for, if not for people to go and buy? But when you're going to buy it, the police will stop you and tell you. I had a man that tell me he went to buy gas and the police tell him, no, you have enough gas, go back home. I
Nah,
have
man,
that in black.
Devon, come
I
on.
have that. I
Devon,
have that in. No, I have no.
but
I
you
have not
said at
saying
the
Gary.
start of the show, you said at the start of the show that it's easy for people to just make up things and wash them out. So you gotta
No,
take that with a pinch of salt too.
no, the man
And
committed
it start
name.
off with the two police with the punching rum and the homeless fella. That
No,
video
but
set the tone.
that was video.
That video.
Gary not responsible for every action of every officer. So I don't want that to be misinterpreted. In fact, only today I had a report. Somebody going through a divorce, and she confided in one of her friends. The husband now have connections with senior people in the protective services. The friend house, all of a sudden, police show up by them 2 o'clock in the morning. They hear a COVID party going on. No COVID party going on, no. But as part of an intimidation because it connected to a divorce proceeding. Now, Gary will not know about that because they don't want him to know about that,
That
right?
where David West come.
Right? David West. We have a lot of institutions here like the Integrity Commission, Equal Opportunities Commission that exist in form but not substance. They they
I wanted
they
to ask
they
you a
collect.
question.
I think they're collecting salaries under false pretenses. You know.
What is it between the police complaints authority and the police complaints division? You know?
Well, I think the Police Complaints Authority is an independent institution outside of the police, and the police internally they deal with their own things internally. I think
But
that's
there's a
the
professional
distinction. I may
there's a,
be wrong.
they have a professional services bureau, a police complaints division, a police complaints authority. All of those things could take the same report.
But, how much of them ever file a report that you hear anything come out of it, right? I mean, these things, the Integrity Commission. When last you hear them do anything against anybody? It's Pandey, it's Rowley, Finn Baganga, Eric Williams, and who is the next one? Franklin Khan. That was the five politicians on your hand that they ever investigate for anything at all. Rowley, when he case, because they say they didn't give him natural justice. Now the case itself was investigated. So everything gets rolled. Pandey case come to North. Finn Baganga, they
And
investigate for 10 cents. His account was off by 10 cents. So they investigate he, right? Franklin Khan and Eric Williams with Sumer Singh and where they say get some money or some kind of thing like that. Nothing ever came of these things, right? No other politician, everybody clean. You hear what's the next one? The proceeds, the anti-money laundering, our next waste of time institution. You hear us, we are blacklisted by FATCA and all that. How much suspicious transaction? Who ever get arrested in Trinidad or charged for suspicious
But,
transaction.
but you're making the point. You're making the point as to why people engage in Movilang and Bad Talk, because nothing works in Trinidad and Tobago. There is nowhere for the average citizen to go and say, this man was living next door to me before he became a minister. He was mining chicken. The children used to go to school barefoot. And now look at them.
No,
The yard boy
well,
living a BMW.
nothing works. Like, right now, I'm talking to somebody in the witness protection program. Part of the program is you get him on a little change so he can survive and pay some basic bills and groceries and things. He have 4 children. He reach out to me to try and help him. You know why? Because the money they're paying him, so you give evidence in a murder trial, in a murder trial, to try and give evidence to lock up some Korean for killing somebody. They stop paying him, man. His wife called me. What day it was? Crying. She don't know what to do. Her children starving. You think that man will want to go and give evidence again? And people hearing that will want to give evidence against anybody? If you give evidence or you provide evidence to any official institution here, it is you become the perpetrator of a crime. Your crime was reporting a crime, and they hold you accountable for that. Try to go to the Integrity
Devon,
Commission. The Integrity Commission is write you and to ask you to provide evidence. Like if
I
you have
asked a question.
investigated.
I asked a question about the Financial Intelligence Unit. If it cleared Dolce in the multi-million dollar purchase of a Range Rover at Sabga Motors, the fact that I mentioned Sabga Motors, Sabga suing me for that defamation. But it's the Financial Intelligence Unit I am asking a question of. Because the same gentleman, Dolce, ended up dead in a hail of bullets, gunfire,
But
gun
where you really
shootout
buy
at
the car
police.
from?
Was that?
Where you really buy the car from?
He had taken a picture with the show with the sales agent on the floor in Sabga Motors. Buy
But
a
you
Range
never
Rover
buy it.
cash. He bought it, he bought his car.
Well, then you have no case.
But
You have no case to worry about.
Sabga lawyers say that my asking the FIU implicates them in drugs or some shit like that. But the commissioner of police himself said, if Dole Cheney is a fisherman, he fishing for goldfish. Because of the lifestyle that doesn't add up and the wealth that he cannot explain or equate with his income and his earnings, which is the reason the FIU exists in the first place.
Yeah, but you see,
But
let me
you
tell you
can't ask
something.
a question.
Stuart Young went in one of these post-cabinet press conferences and talk about fishermen who 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 um who not fishing but claiming money and so on, suggesting, implying there may be some other activities there. Not a shred of evidence. A fisherman ain't get arrested yet for transporting drugs or anything like that. But you're making statement. These people went on our platform and say Ababa had so much $1 million, a doubles vendor, or so on. When how they get that
But
information,
Cody, yeah,
right?
but exactly. And Devon, if
What happened to the
nothing works,
pastor? What happened to the pastor and the Thomas 27 million? We ain't hear about that afterwards,
it's
We
all
ain't hear
about
about
news. It's all about news. We make the news, we make a distraction, we make a big noise, we make some jokes, we cuss a little bit, and then we go on.
the Daryl Smith report. What happened to that?
Brother, you realize the hour has passed, and I didn't get to ask you one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. So I gotta bring you back next week. I don't
Yeah,
know how the show passed. They have so much nonsense going on in the country, and I telling you to be honest with you, I completely fed up, I fed up of how Trinidadians allow this place to fail. A small handful of people get to do what they want, and the mass of us who supposed to own and operate this country, treating it with scant courtesy and total irresponsibility for our role in this democracy.
you
But
want to
let me
know
thank you again.
whenever they call the election, you will see everybody fall in the section, and that is how the
All,
dotishness is happening all over
listen,
again.
yeah, man. I'm gonna ask you to give me your closing comments now, and we will do this again next week, where we're gonna get down into those issues that we were discussing:
Yeah.
agriculture, tilapia farming, all that bacchanal that we want to talk about, but the time has escaped us tonight. So give me your closing comments. Take as long as you need.
Well, I think that we have covered a wide um, grasp, a wide range of topics here tonight on really the issue of governance and what passes for governance in Trinidad and Tobago. And the only reason I think that what happens that we don't like um, is because we accept it, and then when time to go and vote, we just reinforce the decision we do agree with for 4.5 years. On the fifth year, all of a sudden it comes good, and we go and vote it up all over again. And then when the following year comes around, who are we going to argue with? The politician don't win an election by themselves. There's about 25, 30,000 people behind each man in parliament there, who cast their ballot there. So is it conceivable to believe that we have 25,000 dotish people in Lavantil or Pinal or so on? No, something is fundamentally wrong. I mean, we talk about marginal seats and we sanitize it, but really them are seats that are racially divided, and people is vote according to whatever tribe, and the middle, the balancing tribe is whoever could entice them to swing one way or the other would influence that particular seat. But marginal seats, you think the people in Tunapuna think more than the people in Arima or Shagonas? No, it's the same people. And we fool ourselves by sanitizing our arguments with these kind of nebulous, genderless, sexless, raceless arguments. But at the end of the day, we have some fundamental problems that have never been addressed, and we still operate in a kind of plantation democracy.
Brother, us, and hopefully your busy schedule will allow for you to join me again next week, where we can actually go through the list of things that we want to talk about. Enjoy the rest of your
Thanks.
evening and your Netflix.
Thank you.
And that's that. And that hour flew fast. You wouldn't believe. There was an actual list of things that I wanted to get into and to have discussed. The opening and the problems with the internet. All while the show is going on, the electricity dipped twice. Is disconcerting and distracting, and it puts you off because you need to build a momentum to get where you want to prosecute a case. Devant is a very knowledgeable guy, and love him or hate him, he's one of the people who brings information to the conversation as critical to where we're going forward from here. A lot of us are playing hide and seek and pelting stones at each other from behind walls. It's time to pull back the curtains and open the windows and let some fresh air into Trinidad and Tobago and to talk about the things that need talking about. But Plain Talk and all of the guests that come on Plain Talk and every show we've ever had on Plain Talk has reinforced one point, that nothing works in Trinidad and Tobago. That is an unacceptable state of affairs. And we need to fix it at the point, and at the point it goes bad. We need to fix it at the place where it fixes. And that's in the parliament, the cabinet, and the government. And that's not going to happen without you. That's not going to happen if you continue voting race or cult or tribe or reaction or anger. It's time for you to vote for substance. Vote for something that you want. Vote for a better country. Vote for education for your children, healthcare for when you're getting older. Vote for lower food prices. Vote for more value for your money. Vote for water in the taps. Vote for affordable housing. Vote for less drug trafficking and less crime and less gang violence. Vote for a country that has hope and opportunity for everybody. You can vote for all of these things. We continue to vote for nonsense. Vote for $200 on a jersey. That ought to change because we are responsible for this, and it doesn't change without us and those who are making all the millions and the billions that we're getting outraged over, we laughing over, and we talking. When we talk, when we say we like it so, and we jamming still, it's all of we talking about because no one raindrop alone is responsible for the flood. I remember somebody telling me once when I said I was stuck in traffic, he said, "You're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic, me and every other car." And that drove the point home that Keith Rowley and his government is in office because of our actions or our inactions. And we cannot continue to sit idly by and think one from column A or one from column B, or if my hair straight, I vote in A, and if my hair kinky, I vote in B, or if I black, or if I Indian, and if I neither of the above, then I'm not voting at all because my vote don't matter and all that nonsense. More than 50% of the people in this country never ever uses their franchise. We have always had the opportunity to do better. We've let 58 years pass. Is this going to continue to be the legacy of Trinidad and Tobago? Failed from on top, rotten at the bottom? We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have an opportunity to do better. We should do better. We could do better. As they used to say in the 80s, we must do better. It's up to us. Going forward from here, it is going to take a Herculean effort to get each of us to wake up election day, to go down in that booth, stand up for this country, be responsible with our democracy, and vote into office some organization capable of changing the incompetent, corrupt, drug trafficking, narco state, racist, tribal nonsense we've known as politics and governance for the last 58 years. We're going to continue this series. We're going to continue this show tomorrow. We have Kirk Megu at 8 o'clock. Dr. Kirk Megu, one-on-one. I am not doing panels for as long as as much as possible because of the delays with the internet, it makes the exchange a little bit difficult. So unless we have to, I will try to do one-on-ones with people. Kirk Megu is coming to talk about these issues as well, and the political history and the choices we've made and the decisions and the consequences of those choices and decisions. On Thursday, we have Ato Bolden, somebody I have the greatest respect for and somebody that I think should have been at the highest level of Trinidad sport and will be under a Progressive Empowerment Party government if I have my way. On Friday, we have Janice Lemon Creaky. She is a motivational speaker and somebody who is very good at helping you organize yourselves and your life and your mind and your family, and she'll be an interesting guest to listen to, so join us for that. The whole week is going to be busy and big. Next week we have Dr. Kriyan Singh, former senator. He's a vet. We're going to be dealing with animal rights issues and other things, so Plain Talk is going to be busy. We're trying to get other world leaders. We had a regional prime minister on the other day. We're trying to get in touch with other world leaders, including here in the region. We're trying to get Mia Motley as well. So until tomorrow, we have a guest. All right. Until tomorrow, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.